the hit that took out South African businessman. Wandile Boswana was a successful South African businessman known for his outspoken views. He was not afraid to challenge government corruption, especially in the Northwest Province, where he believed contracts were awarded unfairly. His public stand made him a respected figure to some, but to others, he was a threat. Boswana spoke on radio shows and public platforms, openly criticizing powerful people. Over time, his comments angered individuals who wanted to protect their influence and money. As a result, Boswana began to live more cautiously, often using bodyguards and changing his routines. Despite these precautions, he continued to advocate for clean governance and economic fairness. He believed that no one should be above the law, no matter how powerful they were. His brave actions inspired others, but they also attracted dangerous enemies. He had made it clear that he would not be silenced by threats. However, his efforts to expose corruption put him in serious danger. Unknown to Boswana, someone was already planning to stop him permanently. That person was Vusi Keka Mathabila, a feared underworld figure with a network of loyal men. Mathabila saw Boswana as a problem that needed to be eliminated. He called on 3 associates, Sifo Hudla, Robert Matapa, and Bonging Kosi Kumalo, to help him carry out a deadly mission. Together, they would plan a hit that would shake South Africa. On October 2, 2015, Wandile Boswana was in Johannesburg for business. He arranged to meet his associate, Mfo Baloyi, at the popular Mandela Square in Sandton. After spending time at a restaurant, the 2 men left the area in Baloyi's white Renault Clio. What they did not know was that they were being closely followed. In a silver BMW, 3 men, Hudla, Matapa, and Kumalo, trailed them with deadly intent. The hitmen had received their orders from Mathabila, who had been monitoring Boswana's movements for days. Using phone calls and signals, Mathabila coordinated the timing and execution of the plan. The hitmen kept a careful distance, following every turn and watching every stop. Boswana and Baloyi remained unaware of the danger trailing them. They spoke casually in the car, discussing work and plans for the weekend. Meanwhile, the gunmen remained focused on their mission. They waited patiently, knowing there would be a moment when the target would be vulnerable. The streets of Johannesburg were busy, but the assassins showed no signs of panic. Their car blended in with traffic, raising no alarms. Every second brought them closer to the point of attack. For Boswana, what started as a routine day was turning into his last. As Boswana and Baloyi drove toward Pretoria, they approached the Garsfontein off-ramp. When they stopped at a red traffic light, their car was suddenly surrounded. The silver BMW that had been following them pulled up nearby. In a flash, Hudla, Matapa, and Kumalo jumped out, holding automatic firearms. Without a word, they opened fire on Boswana and Baloyi's vehicle. Bullets shattered the car windows and ripped through the doors, targeting the 2 men inside. The attack happened so quickly that nearby drivers barely had time to react. Boswana was hit multiple times, taking bullets to the chest and lower body. Baloyi was also shot, though not as severely. Despite being injured, Baloyi managed to push his foot down on the accelerator and drive away. The attackers fired a few more rounds before running back to their vehicle and speeding off. Traffic on the road came to a halt as people screamed and ducked for cover. The scene was chaotic, with bullet casings scattered on the ground and car alarms ringing. Several witnesses called the police and emergency services. The entire shooting lasted under a minute, but the damage it caused would last a lifetime. Boswana was bleeding heavily, and Baloyi was barely holding on. Baloyi knew that if he didn't act fast, both he and Boswana could die. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and sped onto Garsfontein Road, searching for help. Despite his injuries, he remained focused, hoping to reach a safer location. Boswana sat slumped in the passenger seat, bleeding and struggling to breathe. Baloyi kept talking to him, telling him to stay awake and hold on. Other drivers noticed the damaged car and pulled over to let him pass. Someone finally called an ambulance and gave directions to the emergency responders. When police and paramedics arrived, they rushed to the vehicle and pulled the 2 men out. Paramedics worked quickly to stop the bleeding and provide oxygen. Boswana was placed on a stretcher and loaded into the ambulance. His condition was critical, and paramedics warned that time was running out. Baloyi, though in pain, insisted that the doctors focus on his friend. They reached the hospital, where doctors fought to save Boswana's life. Unfortunately, the gunshot wounds were too severe, and he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The news of his death sent shockwaves across the country, leaving many people heartbroken and outraged. After Boswana's murder, law enforcement launched a large-scale investigation. Detectives reviewed CCTV footage from Mandela Square and surrounding areas. They identified the silver BMW and traced its route following Boswana's car. The car had no license plates, but security cameras captured clear images of the suspects. Forensic teams searched the scene of the shooting and found bullet casings. Ballistic experts confirmed the bullets came from illegal firearms. Investigators also obtained phone records that showed constant communication between Mathabila and the hitmen. Cell tower data placed the suspects at the location of the crime. Police worked day and night, piecing together the timeline of events. A breakthrough came when one of the suspects was seen on footage buying fuel shortly after the shooting. The suspects had tried to hide, but the evidence was too strong. Within weeks, police arrested Mathabila, Hudla Matapa, and Kumalo. They were charged with murder, attempted murder, and possession of illegal firearms. The arrests were announced publicly, and citizens applauded the efforts of the police. The case moved to court, where justice would finally begin to take shape. The courtroom was filled with tension as the trial of Botswana's killers began. Families, journalists, and members of the public came to witness the proceedings. Vusi Keka, Mathabila, and the three other accused appeared calm but serious. They all pleaded not guilty and claimed they had no role in the murder. The prosecution presented strong evidence, including CCTV footage and mobile phone records. The voice of Mathabila was heard giving instructions before and after the shooting. Witnesses were called to testify, including Beloyi, who gave a powerful and emotional account. He described the attack, the injuries, and the final moments of Botswana's life. The defense lawyers tried to challenge the credibility of the evidence, but the facts were clear. Experts confirmed that the guns used in the shooting matched those found in the suspect's possession. The jury listened carefully as days turned into weeks of testimony. Each day, new details revealed the extent of planning behind the murder. The prosecutors argued that the killing was not random, but a hit ordered by a man who felt threatened. By the end of the trial, there was little doubt about who was responsible. The country waited anxiously for the final verdict. After months of testimony and deliberation, the judge delivered the final judgment. All four accused were found guilty of the murder of Wandal Botswana. They were also convicted for attempting to murder Mfo Beloyi and for the illegal possession of firearms. The judge sentenced each man to 30 years in prison for murder. He added more years for the other crimes, but ruled the sentences would run concurrently. The courtroom was silent as the judge explained the reasons for the harsh sentences. He said the killing was cold, calculated, and intended to silence a voice of truth. Family members of Botswana hugged and cried quietly, finding some relief in the outcome. Mathabila and his co-accused showed little emotion as they were led away in handcuffs. Outside the court, supporters of Botswana called for continued action against corruption. Law enforcement officers who worked on the case were praised for their hard work. Beloyi thanked the court for giving justice to his friend. Though the sentences could not bring Botswana back, they sent a strong message. No one, no matter how feared or connected, was above the law. The hitmen would now spend decades behind bars. Years after the murder, Wandal Botswana's name still echoes in conversations about justice. His legacy as a businessman and activist continues to inspire South Africans. Many people now understand the risks of speaking out against corruption. Botswana's bravery opened a national dialogue about protecting whistleblowers. His family created a foundation in his honor to support fairness in business. Schools and community centers use his story to teach about integrity and courage. Beloyi, though scarred by the experience, continues to speak about Botswana's values. He often shares their journey with young entrepreneurs and leaders. The fear that once silenced many voices is slowly being replaced by courage. The assassination made the public more aware of the dangers powerful people pose when challenged. Despite the pain, Botswana's death became a symbol of resistance. His story is told in documentaries and news articles even today. Though the gunman tried to erase his voice, they only amplified his message. Justice may have taken time, but it finally came. Botswana's voice lives on, reminding everyone that truth is worth fighting for.